All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. The Planning and Zoning Commission is a citizen advisory group to the City Council, charged with making recommendations concerning land use plans, planning processes, and are on matters of plan implementation. All regular meetings of the Planning and Zoning Commission are recorded for record retention and transcription. As a note on our agenda item number 4, the preliminary plat for Western Skies has been postponed. The following is the agenda for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Discussion and commission action will be limited to those items on the agenda. Any citizen who wishes to address the commission shall first be recognized by the chair and shall give his or her name and address for the record. If a citizen wishes to read documentation of any sort to the commission, he or she shall first seek permission from the chair. Oral testimony may be restricted to no more than 3 minutes per person. Agenda item number 1 is roll call and disclosure of conflict of interest, ex parte communication, and site visit. Terry, could we have you call the roll, and if each commissioner would state their name, what area they're from, and anything that they may need to disclose.
Burnt.
My name is Jared Burnt. I live in the Highland area. I made a visit to agenda item number 3, and I have nothing else to report.
Moore.
My name's Jack Moore, and I live in the Old Town area, and I made a site visit to agenda item number 3 also, and I have nothing else to report.
Ricks.
My name is Dorothy Ricks. I represent Alameda, or live in the Alameda area, and I too made a site visit and have nothing else to report.
Satterfield.
I'm Ryan Satterfield from the Highland area, and I have nothing to report. All right, agenda item number 2, we have approval of minutes. Commissioners, if you've reviewed the minutes, any discussion on them?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved, and with a second, can we call the vote?
Moore.
Yes.
Ricks.
Yes.
Burnt.
Yes.
Satterfield.
Yes, motion carries. Agenda item number 3, preliminary plat, Riverside Green Subdivision 4th Edition. David Bickley of Rocky Mountain Investing, LLC, represented by Rocky Mountain Engineering and Surveying, has submitted a preliminary plat to subdivide 4.49 acres, more or less, into 10 lots. The property is located east of Bannock Highway and south of Lundberg Lane. So if we could start off by hearing from the applicant.
Good evening, Chairman, Commission members. My name is Brady Smith, Rocky Mountain Engineering and Surveying, 600 East Oak Street, Pocatello, Idaho. What we have before you tonight, as mentioned here just previously, is the pre-plat for this subdivision, which is really an extension of the Riverside Greens project that most of you are probably familiar with over the last 10 or so years out by the Riverside Golf Course. This was kind of the last remaining piece of ground, I think, that kind of was left in the overall build out of this particular project. With the economy being what it was, it has sat vacant for many years, and within the last couple of years, the previous owner, I believe, was Kurt Howard, and he was able to work a deal with our client, which is Dave Bickley, to buy this property and to finish it out. One of the things that will probably be different than what maybe have been previously seen in years past is this is actually intended to be a single family development. The remainder, a lot of the internal stuff, at least on the first 2 divisions, were twin homes. So the density will be less that way. I think Riverside Greens 2nd edition has some single family in there, so it's going to be very similar to that. The most adjacent properties here. And I don't know how they worked that out, whether they took 2 lots and made 1 house or whatever, but the intention from the gate out here in this particular phase is single family homes, just so we're clear. Because I know there's been some confusion. We're calling it Riverside Greens, it's kind of the 4th edition, but they've changed that aspect of it a little bit. There are 4 lots out here on Lundberg Lane that are twin homes, so there would actually be 4 units here, and you'll see that that's kind of excluded. That has been already gone through with the city in a short plat process. So that was already basically kind of set up that way. The utilities were already in Lundberg to service those minus the sewer. And so that plan kind of carried forward as it always was intended. But this internal stuff that's going to be the extension of this feathery drive that's in the report is single-family residential. As mentioned in the report, we feel like we meet the intent of the zone and the code. We have a minimum lot size requirement of 5,000. We're at least double that. We plan to extend water through here, which would be a good thing for the city. We've already begun kind of serving the sewer because these 4 lots, as I mentioned earlier, are in need of that sewer because there was no sewer facilities out in Lundberg to serve them. It's a pressure system at that point. So there have been some, those of you that made it to the site saw probably a lot of dirt moving going on and some different things. So there is work currently going on under the sewer part of that. With this project, we would complete that out with the water, the curb and gutter and the roadway, as well as complete the stormwater infrastructure to handle those improvements. We are also going to be improving a little bit of widening on South 5th Highway here. Is it the old highway? I don't know if I'm referring to that correctly. Bannock Highway, excuse me. I keep wanting to say South 5th, but Bannock Highway as part of this project as well. So that's what this curb, gutter, and sidewalk along the frontage here will be, is to kind of widen that portion. So again, I believe that what we have before you meets the code, and we would just ask for your recommendation for approval to the City Council, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Brady. Questions for Brady? All right.
I actually better mention one thing.
Okay.
It just dawned on me when I closed. So there is a comment that there's conditions associated with this recommendation, and one of those is basically in the memorandum from engineering, and it's regarding this lot right here, this biggest one that actually currently has a home on it right now. Mm-hmm. It accesses off of Bannock Highway, and it, you know, the driveway comes in, and then this house kind of sits in the back. That house will obviously be taken out, but the owner of this particular development would like to keep that lot for himself. Being that situation, there is a water service that's actually in serving off of Bannock Highway to that property, and the city's asking that that be abandoned and that a new service be placed in conjunction with these improvements. The owner is okay with that request. The only condition that he would like to see is that that they get some credit for that service on the inside. You know, he's giving up one, he's fine to abandon, he understands the reasoning to get it off the major roadway and those types of things, and I've kind of mentioned that to staff, and they're here to be able to give their side of it, but we're hoping to work something out. But I wanted to at least get on the record that, you know, we're not in disagreement with the request, but we would like a little bit of trade-off or something of that sort. And I recognize that's kind of not really a planning issue, but it is in the comments and it is part of the recommendation. So we'll probably have to address that at council as well, but I just wanted to mention it for the record.
And what does your client have anything that they're proposing as far as what that trade-off would be? Well,
so obviously I think there's different fees associated with different utilities. So the sewer's going to carry its own fee. He would be looking just for the water part of that. Okay. So if he's giving up a water service that's already active in there to get it out of the Bannock Highway connection, he's fine with that if he could get some sort of a trade-off for the non-impact interior. So for that one particular service.
Very good. Okay. Any questions?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brady. Carl, if we could give the staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission. Carl Anderson, City of Pocatello Planning Department, for the record. Before you for consideration, you have the preliminary plat for the Riverside Greens 4th edition submitted by David Bickley of Rocky Mountain Investing, LLC. The engineer listed on the application is Rocky Mountain Engineering and Surveying. The subject property encompasses 4.49 acres more or less and is located east of Bannock Highway and south of Lundberg Lane. The proposed subdivision will be accessed from the northward extension of Feathery Drive, which connects to Lundberg Lane. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the property into 10 residential lots, 2 of which will be non-buildable and dedicated to open space and stormwater retention. The proposed subdivision is zoned residential medium-density single-family, which has a minimum lot size requirement of 5,000 square feet for a single-family home and 8,000 for a two-family dwelling. The smallest buildable lot is currently 10,540 square feet. Staff has reviewed the application and finds the proposal for Riverside Greens subdivision 4th edition is compliant with all applicable standards of City Code 16.20.050, assuming compliance with the conditions listed in the staff report. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to stand for any questions the Commission may have. Merrill Quell is also here for any questions the Commission may have.
Excellent. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Questions for Carl? Carl, and whether this is you or Merrill, perhaps you could kind of address the request that has been made about the transferring of the water connection fee.
Absolutely. Merrill, would be okay.
Thank you.
Merrill Quell, Public Works Engineer for the City of Pocatello. The request is a valid request. There are, where there's already a connection there and the connection fee and capacity has been paid over the years on that particular line, abandoning it could be transferred to the same lot. It doesn't transfer across town, it doesn't transfer anywhere else, but it can transfer to the same lot. We have done that in the past. A house has been torn down, for instance. They want to renew their line. They have a new line put in and that, and the capacity fee for the water line would not be recharged for that line. So that is a valid request that we can put on the council so that it's on there for the record and tagged there. Along with that though, the current house is on a septic tank and would be charged for the sewer capacity fees.
Very good. Questions? All right, thank you, Merrill. Discussion, commissioners, any thoughts on this proposal? Personally, I like how this phase here will give kind of additional egress. I mean, it all comes out on the Lundberg, but does create a loop system through there, which I find beneficial for the overall area. The larger lots that will be done there shouldn't create any concerns for density because the density is going to be much lower than even what the previous phases were. So, those are some of my thoughts.
I think there's it's good as far as road safety goes because there's going to be cement sidewalks along Bannock Highway. And I was always, when I was looking at it originally, I thought wouldn't be a good scenario, car flying off the side into those houses. But having a little bit of a barrier there with concrete helped me with that.
Good. Any other thoughts?
So do we talk about the abandoned line in our conditions for approval?
You know, the
Or is that the
conditions,
same thing?
and I guess just for a little clarification here, just so everybody is on the same page, when somebody goes to submit for a building permit, they are charged a water connection fee as well as a sewer connection fee. And so what the request is that since there's already a water connection to that lot, that even though they'll install a new one, which is what the condition is here, that the connection fee would not be imposed upon them. I would say that, yeah, in a motion, something like that should be mentioned, and Merrill has stated that in the new staff report going to council that they will also address that. So. If somebody would like to make a motion or any continued discussion.
like to make a motion to recommend approval of the preliminary plat application from David Bickley of Rocky Mountain Investing LLC for the Riverside Green Subdivision 4th Edition, finding the application does meet the standards for approval under Chapter 16.20.050 Pocatello Municipal Code with the conditions of approval that all staff conditions be met.
Okay, we have a motion.
I second it.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Terry, would you call the vote? Prior to that, any discussion on the motion, I guess? I guess understanding as well that Merrill will put that in the next, going forward to council. I think that sounds fine. So,
Yes.
okay, if you'll call the vote.
Moore,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Ricks,
Yes.
Satterfield.
Yes, motion carries. And that concludes our business for the evening. Thank you for coming.